Brian, this is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family. And today we are getting aggressive. What's the cheer? That be aggressive, be aggressive. That's the chant of today's video because we are talking about aggressive games where you really. You don't shy away from the conflict. You seek out the conflict for the chance to win the game.
These games have been tearing apart relationships for centuries.
Yes. If you feel like your relational bonds with your gaming group are a little bit too...
You can't let them get too close.
Strong. Yeah. You need some healthy aggression in there.
That's right.
I will say this, we have two topics that we've kind of done recently from a filming perspective. We did relaxing games and now we're doing aggressive games. And I found both lists hard to make actually, because I've actually realized my favorite games tend to be neither relaxing or aggressive. They tend to be kind of in the tense, but still a lot of you're not directly hurting other players. So it's kind of interesting. It kind of got me out of my maybe my normal games that make a lot of top lists. As always, drop in the comments your favorite aggressive games. Do you like aggressive games? Is it something you gravitate towards? We will have links to all the ones that we mention in the description below if you want to check them out. But let's hop in and see what our top fives are.
That's right. My
charging. I need some more aggressive verb there.
Yes.
Hop. We're not hopping. We are
steam
full
rolling
steam
in.
ahead. Cavalry.
Steaming ahead to my number 5, which is a game I do not own, Ryan. You own this one, and is one that fascinates me on the interaction. I mean, aggression, obviously are like games that are extremely interactive. This one definitely everyone's looking for moves to creative moves that can obviously both lift you up and potentially tear someone else down in the process. But this goes to Yellow and Yangtze for my number 5 most aggressive game. I was thinking about this one, Ryan. I mean, this game is just fascinating from a puzzle, the board state. I truly have not played a game that the board state can change in a moment from a war or something like that.
Yeah.
And this one's like that. I mean, it's a game where you're trying to collect. There's different colored cubes, and you get points by having the pagodas.
Yeah, basically, whenever a tile is placed, that color cube is going to go to whoever has that color leader in that group.
Thank you for that refresher. It's been a little while since I played this one.
I don't know the last time you played this thing.
I know this. But anyways, so you're trying to kind of always, your final score is the lowest, whatever color cube you're the lowest in. So you're trying to kind of be balanced going up. But this is one in terms of aggression. I mean, you are always looking for how can you sneak in and steal a pagoda or cause a war that suddenly you are never safe in this game. If you rise to power, boy oh boy, you better watch because you're gonna get torn down at some point.
Well, and a lot of times you rise to power in a certain color or a couple colors,
right?
And you get to a point where it's that's not really what you need anymore. And but somebody else is that's exactly what they need. And so they're going to look to steal it from you.
And I think this one, because again, I'm also similar to you of I don't gravitate towards going, my success being your downfall type games.
Yeah.
But I think this one does it really well. One, what you were just saying of the fact that if I can just get a lot of points in a category, I'm actually okay if that eventually gets taken from me. But also it's one of those games that you know it up front that this is how the game is like this. And so I don't know. So I find the ones I actually don't like are the ones where there's aggression, but in a game that doesn't fully feel like it should be aggressive.
I feel like the poster
Keyflower.
child. Yeah, I was gonna say Keyflower is the one that definitely.
Oh gosh, don't get me started. Keyflower was not making this list. I know a lot of people love Keyflower, but that was.
I liked Keyflower probably more than anybody else in the group that we played.
Why are you taking my tile? Get out of here. Yeah. So, anyways, Yellow and Yangtze, an extremely just interactive, tense, and aggressive game of going back and forth and trying to score the most points there. So
yeah, and my understanding is it's actually less aggressive than Tigris and Euphrates, the original.
Oh yeah, I've never played that one.
Tigris and Euphrates is even more big, monumental swings. Like one big play could completely, determine the outcome of the game. Which is what a lot of people like about the game is kind of the high stakes of figuring out, how to make that happen. But yeah, I think I tried like a 2-player test game of Tigris and Euphrates digitally a long time ago. But so I wouldn't say that I've actually played it. We might have. It might have been.
Maybe that was. Maybe I've actually.
I don't think it was very representative. So most of our experience has been with Yellow and Yangtze.
Cool.
I'm going to be starting off my list feeling a little cold to the new here with my first couple entries, but stick with us. It won't be the whole list. But this is one that I just really, the more I looked into it, the more I realized I just didn't really have a game like this that's really kind of light and accessible, but is just like so over the top thematic and like that it's just like that's the appeal of it, to bring it out with a group is like this is just so kind of funny and just the theme is just bleeding through, because a lot of light games aren't that like crazy thematic, at least not from like a maybe aggressive Ameritrash side of the fence. This is Thunder Road Vendetta. And Thunder Road Vendetta, I mean, you literally, if you're in a multiplayer game, the game will not end until a player has had all their cars eliminated. You have everybody has 3 cars. So it's just guaranteed that you're going to all be shooting at each other. And there's plenty of non-player things that can kill you in this game, of hazards and things that come up.
Yeah.
But this is one it's aggressive, but it's very like light aggressive. So it doesn't feel like, there's not a lot of times in this game that it feels like, oh my gosh, why? Like you never feel like, why is someone doing this to me? It's not unexpected at all. You are like just constantly expected to be shot at and have things happen.
Yeah.
But I've just found it works so well to bring out with a variety of different groups, honestly. I mean, we've played it with my son and also played it with kind of more gaming friends. And like everybody just has a blast seeing how it unfolds. And within the chaos, there are interesting little tactical decisions of how do I use my dice? Where am I going to push my luck? How much am I going to push one car versus letting a car lag? Because if you lag too far behind, this bit me in the last game I played. Somebody really took off with one of their cars, and I ended up losing my last 2 cars. They were on the last space of the tile that gets removed when somebody goes the next one. I was 1 away. And so, I had prioritized too much another car that had been ahead and then, exploded or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's fun to have a highly kind of aggressive game in the way that's going to get everybody kind of laughing and having fun. That's easy to bring out with almost everybody. It's so fun to pull this one out, and the presentation is great. It's got a high toy factor.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's gone over really, really well with people so far.
That one I highly considered. Didn't make my list, but I agree. It's honestly amazing to have a game that's that aggressive and yet that accessible, because, a lot of aggressive games you might be hesitant to pull out with, Yeah,
a lot of them are bigger or they're lighter, but just not that good, right?
Yeah, or even just the fact, like, it could bring out, like, attacking each other can, for a certain amount of people, bring out not great feelings of like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, Thunder Road manages to keep it all very fun, and I think the reason is it leans so much into just the craziness of it, which is weird because there's other games that I have said, like, I don't like just kind of random chaos, take that type of stuff. But Thunder Road is a little different, and just like, I love the possibility space. Like, it isn't just like, oh, there's some take that thing and we just kind of like see that happen. The breadth of types of things that can happen in this game is actually pretty big. Like, oh, this hazard did something and that caused me to hit a car, and then you resolve a slam, and like, you can get these kind of chain reaction things. So I've played it quite a few times, and I'll still see something. Somebody hits a hazard that was actually a boost that they like, shoot over the fire instead of having to go through it. I mean, there's just and when those moments happen, everybody's having a good time. And I've heard people say, and I actually agree with this, it's one of the few games where like you'll go, the strategically right thing is probably for me to do this, but this is going to be the more fun thing.
I know.
I'm going to try to jump the cliff or something, like, and see if and that's fun that it can facilitate getting everybody into that mindset, because it's a very fun experience when everybody's
the theme is, I mean,
the
theme is incredible, and I think that's why you're able to imagine, oh my gosh, imagine if I do this, so you can even visualize that. I totally agree. Okay, Ryan, we're gonna not move away from the cold to the new. This is the most new game that I've played. Again, another one I do not own. Be interesting to see if I ever own this one. But oh my goodness, is this game aggressive? This one is like towing the line of too aggressive for me. I don't think I could play this game back to back. I've got to take a breath afterwards, but it is an incredible aggressive experience. This is going to go to Arcs. Oh boy, Ryan. So I've played we played digitally, but I think in person, one in person one.
Big
okay,
4-player.
Yeah, 4-player
game.
That was an unbelievable experience. I mean, it is just tense all the way through, because everything's aggressive, basically. Like, there's no just you're off. Like, everything that you're doing is directly interactive with everyone else at the table. And it starts with the fact that every single round, is it 3 of the scoring things get
up to 3 ambitions?
Up to 3 ambitions can get claimed. And so, the people at the table are deciding every single round all that matters. The only things that are getting scored.
There's kind of this conflict up front of like, who's going to get to pick the things, and are they going to pick ones that I'm really bad at?
And then it's just, from there, you're playing these, you've got your hand of cards, and what someone leads determines what, if you play higher than them in the same suit, you're able to, do the full action with the number of pips on the card. But if you don't have that, you have to either do one action in the same or pivot to, to something different.
One action on your card instead of theirs.
And so what people lead determines completely what you can do. Like, I have never played a game where you're just the whole time, it's so tense and trying to figure out, how am I going to be able to do this? And everything that everyone else is doing directly impacts you. I mean, completely. And so the game is just so tight, so aggressive. And then you add in, these fun, I don't know what you call them, powers or whatever, the
leaders
and stuff like that, which adds some really fun variety. But man, Ryan, this game is so aggressive.
It is very aggressive.
It is so aggressive, honestly. And I could see it even going up on a list like this, and just playing it more. It's everything. There really is no safe spot. There's no part of the game that you're just kind of, some games will have aggressive elements, but maybe part of the game you're kind of, maybe you start out the game, you're kind of off on your own, and then combat happens later on, or maybe, it's just this little aspect. The entire, the whole game is, you are dropped onto a map right next to everyone else, and immediately your objectives are, being claimed, and you have to figure out how am I going to score best given the current state. So
Yeah.
this is a very aggressive
It's a
board
very
game.
aggressive one.
But a well-designed one, I will say that.
Indeed, it's very unique and indeed aggressive, and in fact is my number 4.
Oh
as
wow, look
well.
at that.
And yeah, it is such a tense experience, and it's interesting because the aggression, you look at the game and you hear us talking about how aggressive it is, and you're like, oh, are you just like fighting each other on the map? And that's part
There's
of
some.
But honestly, the aggression, the primary source of the aggression is the fact that these ambitions that get declared, the only way you score is if you're first and second in them.
Yeah.
And so you're all competing for that. And like, if you get third, you're going to get nothing. But then you are able to take things from each other. You can raid people and take their, and so like if we have the ambition for most relics, and you've got 3 relics over there, and I've got 2 relics over there.
I'm coming after you.
Both of us probably know that I'm doing everything in my power to come and take one of those relics from you.
Yeah. That was the big shift in my mind that I realized is like, oh, I would be like have a lot in a certain category, so be like, oh, sweet, let's go early on and claim that ambition, and then not realizing I just put a massive target on myself.
But it's not like you can really pass. You may not get another opportunity to declare an ambition. Like it's so hard. Like if you want a certain ambition to be declared, you have to have the right number in your hand with that ambition. You need to gain the lead and then lead that specific card. And so like if you pass on your opportunity to do that, you're probably not going to get to.
So you have to go for it.
And so you have to decide, like, am I okay with everybody knowing this is what's going to score? I mean, we had the example, I was way behind, so I had to make a big play, and I think this was the game you were in.
Yeah.
And so you can declare multiple ambitions on the same ambition.
Yeah.
And so I doubled down on one that I was like clearly ahead on, and I knew I was going to get targeted.
Yeah.
But I had to play for it, and I almost pulled it off, but like, our sister got a good raid roll against me, and I mean, I just had everything torn away from me. Like it was brutal. It was a bloodbath.
Yeah.
And so like you do just have to, this game, maybe more than any game on my list, is important to go in with the right expectations. Because if you don't, like, there could be things that happen in this game that just make you want to flip the table.
Oh, yes. I know. It's really true. And fortunately, I think I had the right expectations going into it.
And all that
I did not flip the table.
Yeah. And all that said, with those still being things that don't normally draw me to a game, there is so much about this design and game that's so interesting. And the tactics of working, and even though everything's hard with your hand, it is very interesting. How do I do this? And so I find myself still really enjoying this. Now, I've played the first game of a 3-player of the Blighted Reach campaign, which is like a 3-game campaign, which actually I think helps make it feel less aggressive. And the reason for that is, in addition to the normal ambitions, everybody has their fates, like your own personal objective, basically. And you have ways now you could have a personal objective that's kind of aggressive and is like encouraging you to be aggressive, but you might not. You might have something that's like, you're just kind of doing your own thing. And so because there's this other thing that's like a kind of a private objective, it takes a little bit of the pressure off those competing for ambitions being the only thing. Now, the ambitions are still the score in the game,
right?
But if you don't get your private objective all the way down, that's going to subtract from your score at the end. So I'm very interested to continue the campaign and see kind of like, but I have a feeling that the non-campaign mode, just the base arcs, Leaders in Lorth, is probably the most aggressive, version of it. And I mean, I don't think I ever would want to play 2-player again, because then you don't even have like any checks and balances. It is just literally like, if I hurt you, it helps me just as much. Whereas just adding a 3rd player, I have to ask myself, is hurting you, setting me back against this 3rd player?
Right.
Like it just makes it a little more interesting. 2-player, I mean, you could just, if you start burying the other player, just continue burying the other player, because that's going to be the strategic move.
Right.
But yeah, it's one that This is the one that I could see just fluctuating the most on this list. Like,
Yeah.
this could go up, this could go down. I need to play it more, but fascinating design.
Very true, Ryan. Okay, to go on to my number 3. This is a game that we both owned from a long time ago. I carried on the legacy of it from there, and now Ryan is dabbling back into it. And this is one that, from a probably a visual perspective, is the most traditional looking aggressive game, and this goes to HeroScape. You know, this, I mean, a game is, I think, can be defined as aggressive when literally the objective is to eliminate all the characters of the other side. But this one does it. I mean, it's just one. If you've never heard of HeroScape, the presentation is just something else. I mean, this isn't even I don't even know if you call it a board game. It's, you know, you got 3D terrain and whatnot, and when you and it looks like the new stuff that they've put out with it is pretty, you know, well made and all that, because I know you just got the stuff.
It's not cheap, but it is really well done.
But this is one where you are drafting your army, and so I love that part, because you build, kind of trying to figure out a synergy in your team. You are heading out and you are fighting to the death. And that, honestly, that concept in and of itself is actually not my favorite. I am not a big fight to the death game type person.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of ways it could go poorly, and there maybe even still is a little bit of that can, you know, depending on the you know, what kind of game you're playing in HeroScape. But I just think there's a ton of things that this game does so well that mitigate that and make it one. I mean, I have had some of my best board gaming memories playing HeroScape. One, characters are just unique and fun, and the whole points drafting and figuring out, like, what army do I want. And every game, that's a unique and interesting decision, and then you get to kind of play out the result of this unique combination. Do you go with a really high point guy and you've got just a few characters, or do you go with this larger but a bunch of weak? You know, it's just that I find that part's really fun. I love in this game how, you know, you can build the map however you want, which, again, that's like an additional part of the game that I enjoy. But I love how you can use glyphs to control the kind of how the battle is going to play itself out, because glyphs are basically a tile that you can go and you flip it over, and almost all of them are like some positive thing, like, as long as you're standing on this, you get +1 attack for all your people or something like that. So where you position the glyphs on the map can really control how the battle moves. And whatnot. And so I've played I mean, honestly, most of my games of HeroScape have actually been with playing with upwards of anywhere from like 4 to 6 people. We've dabbled, you know, with playing, you know, one team versus another team. I like that because it eliminates what the problem you can get into sometimes if you have more than 2 teams is you get a little bit of the, like, why are you going?
Take out this person first.
Yeah, you're going after one side versus the other, and sometimes there's even benefits to, like, eliminating a person. We actually did a house rule on that helped mitigate that, which, as I won't even get into that, but that was a whole that actually worked really well for mitigating,
because it was basically like, if someone gets eliminated and other people still have a ton of points, that person gets to redraft in with, like, a
between
percentage.
the percentage difference of the next alive person, how many points they have left alive. So it incentivized you to bring everyone down kind of at
somewhat
more of an equal rate. But I mean, there's not it's not a heavy game. I mean, it's really just you're this is a chucking dice and exploring the map, but oh my gosh, it is so much fun. It is like the little the child in me just loves this game. So
because the gameplay is very simple. I mean, it's well done. It's a solid system that sets up for, you know, interesting abilities and stuff. But it's a game that allows you to have this big experience in a way that no other game really can. I mean, just the making of the map. if it was just a toy, it would be a cool toy.
Yeah.
Like
I
you would be
know.
able to make these crazy 3D
I
landscapes.
know. It's like our love
and
of
do the character-
Legos getting added into a board game, you know?
And so to be able to do all that, and then it's like we get a playable game out of this,
Yeah.
and one that has a lot of fun drama and interest and high moments.
Right. Well, and we talk about how much we love, variability. Well, oh my gosh, you can literally build a unique map every time. And
Yeah.
then when you're playing it out, like, figuring out where's position wise, like where are the best spots? What should I, get towards and whatnot. And then when you're playing with multiple teams and whatnot, our groups would always, you're negotiating with people of like, hey, okay, are we good? And and whatnot and stuff like that. But, man, I have not played this one in a while, and I would love to just get a HeroScape game back out again.
I've played it because I've gotten a little bit of the new stuff, but not like it's been really small.
Yeah.
Just 1v1, and like the starter set we have doesn't even really have the concept of glyphs.
Oh, okay.
Like it comes with one glyph that like I think there's a mission that like uses it. But yeah, it's been a really long time for me, because back when you were doing it with all your like college friends, I don't think I've played it since even back
Ryan,
then.
it's probably been a decade since you played HeroScape.
Probably.
Yeah.
Nice. It's good to see. It didn't make my list.
I know.
Who knows? Maybe be able to play it more with kids. It's a great game with kids. It's just like a kid's dream. It's one that's like I wish we would have found it earlier in our childhood.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
My number 3 has been mentioned, in fact. It's Yellow and Yangtze.
Look at that.
Yeah. This is one, it has a little bit of similarity to Arcs in that kind of what offsets for me maybe the aggression that I'm not normally drawn to is just how interesting the decision space is and like the situations. But this is a lot more like kind of abstracted out to this tile laying game where you're seeing these like cities grow and expand. It's like these organisms on the board, and if they ever touch, then you have a war, and that soldiers die, it eliminates the red tiles and breaks up into new things, and it's very interesting to see how that all unfolds. The core system taken from Tigris and Euphrates is really, really brilliant. This whole concept of you put your leaders adjacent to these groups, but you can only have one leader of each type. So you're the blue leader in this thing, and any blue cubes that city produces are going to go to you. But if somebody comes in and places another blue leader, now you're going to revolt, and only the one that wins is going to get to stay. So you can kind of do an internal conflict where you try to, replace somebody in it. But then there's these external conflicts, the wars, where you connect two separate states, and they can actually connect peacefully, as long as there's no similar of the same color leader in the opposite ones. But if there's like, a blue and a green on both sides, we have to war and see which side is going to get to keep their leaders. Because whenever the dust settles, a state can only have one of each color leader. And yeah, it's just the flexibility in this game. If you get 2 actions on your turn, there's so many ways you could approach that in any given turn, because you can play tiles, you can play leaders, you can move leaders. There's some of these special things like that are specific to Yellow and Yangtze, where you can trash 2 blue tiles to do a peasant's revolt, where you can destroy a tile on the board, which again, because you get 2 actions, there's many times where a peasant revolt is the first action, can rip out a crucial tile so that you could get in. There's the interesting aspect that a leader can only stay out there as long as it's next to one of the black tiles. And the more black tiles are next to it, the stronger its position is in a revolt. But if there's a leader out there that's only got 1 black tile, you peasant revolt that 1 black tile, that leader's removed from the board because it no longer, is supported. And now you could just peacefully join as I got rid of your red leader. Now I can just bring my red leader in. I didn't even have to fight you for it. So lots of clever plays in this one. It is one that I find that, there's times where another player does something and it's like quite bad for me, but I have to just tip my hat and go, that was a really clever move.
I will say this game is up there for games that where you have opportunities to make a move that make you just look at it and go, oh wow, that was
Yeah.
awesome. There's just
Yeah.
really clever moves that aren't always obvious
Mm-hmm.
that you can make them.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like once the board really builds up, kind of the stability of these. So it really is like kind of a cool way that it's this metaphor for
Yeah.
like actual civilizations and stuff, because you get to this point of stability where it's like, man, it's really hard for me to get in here.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you can just overthrow things right and left, and you're trying to think creatively. Like, okay, I need black points, black cubes. Like that's what I'm lowest in. The best way for me to get it is get in maybe on some of these pagodas that are out there or whatever, because I could start my own thing, but it's going to be so slow, to get
Yeah.
it. But like, man, there already is a black leader here. Is there any way I can revolt to get it out, or peasant? Oh man, it's tricky. Can I cause a war that'll maybe? So you can definitely get to points where it's like, man, you're really searching for ways to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
To get get the points that you need. But as far as aggression, I mean, I've seen turns in this game where a player just gets wiped off the board. Like, I mean, so an easy thing to do in this game is, everybody at the beginning of the game is kind of starting to put things out. It's easy to kind of start making your own little state, right? And
Yeah.
like putting all your leaders kind of in the same state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you go that route, it basically means that when a war inevitably down the line happens, all of your people are going to be on one side.
Yeah.
And all of your people being on one side means there's probably not very many other people on that side, right? Because there can only be one of each
Yeah.
leader. So it means you're likely in a position where everybody but you wants the other side to
Yeah.
win.
Right.
And if the other side wins, you are going to be completely
I know you need to spread
completely wiped.
yourself out a little bit.
So it's definitely playing a little riskier game. And I always try to tell people when I teach this game, like, don't think of it as your state.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see that state that person's making over there? Doesn't have a green leader yet? Just go in there with your green leader. Like you can, there's sometimes where I've seen people like, actually it's been pretty effective from them making their own state, but you are playing with fire a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, it's one that I've had a lot of fun with. We've talked about how our sister actually, it would actually be interesting to see her top 5 aggressive.
I mean, it's probably our top 5 board games of all time.
Yeah. She does like some of these aggressive games, and Yellow Yossi is one she enjoys a lot.
Very nice.
But yeah, double mention on our list.
Double mention must mean it's good.
Or at least aggressive.
Yeah, going to my number 2. I'll be a little surprised if this one isn't on your list, but we'll see. I feel like there's a lot of 2-player board games that are just gonna, by the nature of the fact that they're 2-player, is they're aggressive.
Yeah.
The my gain is, or your loss is my gain. But man, this one is just fascinating from a mechanic standpoint, but you are just jousting back and forth with your opponent, trying to figure out how to when scoring cards come up, it's net scoring. This is going to go to Twilight Struggle. Man, Ryan, what an aggressive board game. So you got to have a map of the world, and you start out in the early war, which is really you're playing. It's a game where you've got a hand of cards. You're dealt a random hand of cards, and certain cards are the USSR side, certain cards are the USA side, and then there's kind of neutral cards, and then there's also randomized a scoring card for every kind of area. You've got a Europe scoring card and a Middle East scoring card. Mm-hmm. And so at the start of the game, you're only playing in Europe, Middle East, and Asia. And so it's kind of, you got this little bit narrow view. But man, you are, every card, if it matches your side, you get to either do the event, which is a real event. That's what's awesome about this game. It's all about the Cold War, or the full operation values of the points of the card in the top left. So that's awesome, right? You get to either do something really great for you, or use the full operation points, which is how you place influence. It's how you can make coups and do all that sort of stuff. But if you play an opponent's card, you can use it for the operation points, but you have to trigger the event.
Yeah,
and
let them basically do it as if they played it.
Right, and so it's a fascinating game because on the one hand, you kind of want a hand that's like a bunch of your cards because you feel like, man, I can do so much. but it's also can be really good to have some of your opponent's cards because you control when the event.
There's so many times I get one of my opponent's cards and I'm like, it is really good they didn't draw this round.
I know. And so, I mean, this is a game because ultimately most of the scoring happens is within that deck of cards, there are a scoring card for every area. And it's randomized. You don't know when they're going to come up for in a
you
like certain
know which
period.
ones are possible at any point.
So you get this hand and you're like, okay, I've got Europe scoring. Oh no, I am not doing good in Europe. Okay, and maybe Ryan might have. I don't know. And so you're watching your opponent's moves to try to read like, okay, do I think they're setting up something to try to score? Are they bluffing? Do I play this? Maybe I'm down in Europe, but if I start going, like, am I just going to make matters worse? If I start maybe I just cut my losses and score it now. This game is such a tense back and forth. I mean, that's exactly how the scoring is. It is a net scoring of either if one side can get to 20, you win the game immediately. Otherwise, it's
a tug of war.
It's a tug of war. But it is incredible. It is one of the most aggressive, and that's the entire game is aggressive, interactive. But just so much fun. And so this is so high up there for a game that, again, one that we've talked about. I don't think we would have looked at this game initially and thought this is a game we want to own. But at the time it was, this is way back. It was number one on Board Game Geek. And so we're like, hey, let's try out the number one game.
I got it for my birthday.
Got it for your birthday. And I think really have been blown away by the design in this. Honestly, Ryan, talking about it right now, we need to get we need to get a digital version.
Yeah, we got to get it played, which we've probably said like in 8 videos in the last year.
And people are getting tired and now they're unsubscribing. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting with the scoring cards. I remember the specific game we played way back that the first round of the early war, no scoring cards came out. And I don't know, you were probably USSR, because a lot of times USSR is a little bit stronger out of the gate.
Yeah.
And the first round went really poorly for me. It was like Daniel took control of, like, he was leading in all 3 of the ones that came out. So then we deal the second hand, and I get all 3 scoring cards. And I'm just looking at this hand and being like, I'm doing bad in all 3 areas.
Yeah.
I have to score all 3 of them.
And those are cards you're playing that are
instead
cards.
of me playing something else.
Right.
And I'm just looking at, and I think I came to the conclusion that like it was actually better for me to just like
do it right away.
Play them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very bad situation.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's this one really, like, if the theme interests you and you've got someone else, it's a longer game, but if you got someone else that would like that kind of just tense card, such interesting card play. Like if you like getting a hand of cards and just the tension of how to make the best out of what I've been given, this game just does that in spades. So there you go.
Even if you aren't interested in the theme,
that's actually
we
true.
weren't.
All my education of the Cold War came from this
everything
game.
I know.
So, yeah.
Cool. My number 2 is in a similar vein. I had similar thoughts to you that I was like, I guess a lot of 2-player games are gonna, be in consideration for this because just the nature of a 2-player game. But there are certain ones that are more aggressive, and this is a big, epic, aggressive game that is largely carried by the fact that it so well creates the story of the source material in a board game, and this is War of the Ring. Really the definitive epic Lord of the Rings experience. You have this giant board of all of Middle Earth, and you begin the game with the Fellowship having been formed in Rivendell, and one side's playing the Shadow, and one side's playing the Free Peoples and the Fellowship. And it's this game of conflict as the Fellowship tries to make its way, to Mount Doom, to cast the ring in, while the Shadow player is largely trying to win a military victory by taking over enough strongholds. So it's very much it is a war game. The Shadow is coming, and there's battles that are happening and dice that are rolled in this a pretty dynamic system with how the battles are resolved and how any of the cards in your hand are also like tactics cards that can be used in battle to affect things. And like leaders in battles apply rerolls. If you're in like a stronghold and you get attacked, you can retreat into the stronghold and go into a siege battle, which is such a classic thing from Lord of the Rings with big battles like Helm's Deep or Minas Tirith. And it's so fascinating to watch that war happen. But then the way that on top of that, there's this other game of the ring that can either the ring gets cast into Mount Doom for the Free Peoples to win, or Frodo succumbs to corruption and the Shadow player wins. So both players have like two ways they can win. The Free Peoples technically can win a military victory, and they only need 4 points to do it. It's very hard, but it's also one you can be very sneaky about because the Shadow player is probably going to assume you're not going for that.
Right.
But you can, doors might open that you could kind of sneak some points there. And this is one of aggressive games. This is, and actually just highly competitive strategy games in general. This is one where I find myself like not caring about the outcome as much as just like wanting a close, like it just tells such a good story. And like, even when something bad happens to me, often it's so thematic and just rich in how it's like painting this picture of everything that it's like I'm just appreciating it more than I'm feeling the pain of how it hurt my own strategy. So really cool game. I mean, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan and like big, it's not an easy learn or teach, and so you're gonna have two people that are really willing to kind of dig their teeth into a big complex game. But man, I mean, I've played it, I think only maybe 3 or 4 times.
Okay. I've only played it once.
It's a big, it takes like 4 or 5 hours to play. I mean, it's a big, like you said, a day to schedule this.
Yeah.
But every one of my games has been, a different story and just like a really rich experience. And so, yeah, it definitely, when I guess when it comes to 2-player aggressive games, looking at my list, I like to go the more epic.
Well, I was gonna say again, aggressive is not our normal type of game, and so for a game to be that long and aggressive, it has to deliver a masterpiece of an experience, which I think Twilight Struggle and War of the Ring do that very thing.
Yeah.
Very nice, Ryan. Okay, moving to my number 1, my favorite aggressive game. This game, just the aggressive nature of it, is in the gameplay, but it also is just the tension and aggressiveness at the table. This is one that takes quite some time to play, and yet it is just an amazing aggressive experience. This is going to go to Twilight Imperium 4th edition.
Okay, I wondered.
Yeah, it's I talk about this game a lot because this game's incredible. But I was thinking about this more, Ryan. It's funny. The game starts out and it's actually not that aggressive at the beginning. Like it's actually one of the things I like about the game. It's got kind of a fun arc. The beginning of the game, you're exploring, you're finding planets, you're kind of building up, but always the game, because the map is not big enough for everyone to just be fine on their own. You get to this point where everyone's kind of spread out and you can feel the tension at the table because it's like, who's gonna make the first move that causes just a chain reaction? Because oftentimes what happens is like someone decide, because we're all trying to score objectives. That's the nice thing about this game. It's actually not a just kill other people game. It is you are purely trying to score victory points from objectives, but naturally other people are in the way of that happening, and so. Someone makes a move and goes after someone, and now suddenly everyone's looking for their opportunity. They made this move, so now I can do this. And there's so much what I was talking about, like above the table. There's so much negotiating and in interaction around one, just like, okay, are we like, we're right next to each other, but you're not planning on making a move, but like, I mean, you can trust that, but
Yeah.
but at some point, if someone has a victory point, an objective that backstabbing would help with that, they might go for it. I think about the laws in this game. I mean, that's a huge part of this game is the agenda phase, where you could vote. Everyone's going to be able to vote, and depending on how much influence you have. And you can permanently change the game and permanently change the game against a player. Like that's I mean, there's times where maybe you're out in front dominating and suddenly this law comes up and people vote to, they have more influence than you and they, slap this permanent law that's now on you, or maybe even just changes the state of the game, but in a way that is, so the game is 6 people all jousting for victory points, and there's so many opportunities for self-balancing and pulling the leader back and all that sort of stuff. And then suddenly if you see a player, similar to kind of what you were talking about with ARX, you see a player is getting close to getting the enough victory points, like you are going after them and all that. So the game just has this tension that escalates and it gets more and more aggressive. And the last thing I'll say about it is just I love the action selection. At the start of every round, you're choosing these tiles. I think it's like 1 through 8 or whatever. And each one gives you the primary action, but then is going to trigger the secondary action of everyone else. And so even the interaction around that is huge, because what you can do in a round is directly controlled by, or is influenced by what other people do as well. It's a very aggressive game. Like it is all about the interaction, negotiation, the combat, all of that stuff. But it's epic.
Ooh.
It's epic.
Yeah, it is interesting what you were saying of the board kind of fills up. And one of my favorite things about Twilight Imperium is how it makes you feel the cost of war. You don't just want to go fight.
No.
I mean, it's costly from a resource perspective.
Yeah.
And so you got to have intention with that.
Yeah.
But what you were saying about once one person does something, because the thing is, it's very hard to fight on 2 fronts.
Yes.
To be fighting 2 people at the same time.
Yeah.
So naturally, if one person attacks somebody, everybody else has an incentive to attack that person, because they're going to be at the disadvantage of fighting on 2 fronts since they're already fighting on one. And so you can imagine the domino effect, because now another player attacks. Well, now that player is,
I know. It just, the last half of this game just turns into pure insanity but just an it's just such an epic, and the finish is just wild. It's something you just you'll remember the experience of how this game unfolded, because it's different every time. But
and the public objectives, I mean, you can kind of deduce what people might be going for. They haven't done this 2-point objective yet, but there's also private objectives. So there's sometimes that a player will do something that's so out of left field.
Yeah.
Because nobody knew that, that was actually
Which
good
the objectives are what keep this game from just being a build a big army and...
Yeah, you'll do very poorly if you just go into warmonger mode and just try to...
Unless your objectives need that.
Unless you're very aligned with your objectives.
There you go.
Nice. My number one, as I was thinking about it, became pretty clear. It has been mentioned, and it is indeed Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle, I mean, as far as this list being my favorite aggressive games, this for a long time really has been it. Everything in this game, everything you do is to swing something with the other player, to bring them down, to bring yourself up.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just, that's what it's going to be.
Right.
So it's not, we've talked about this. It's the unexpected aggression that stings the most in games and really gets people angry. And so when your expectations are set so well, I don't really have a problem with the aggression.
Although I will say, Ryan, the die roll, that single die, when you get a poor roll on a coup
or
a
series of poor rolls.
Oh gosh, I will flip the table on that.
I can see where a lot of people would hate that aspect of Twilight Struggle. Like so much of it is so strategic,
there's
and then there's
moments I
moments
do.
that come down.
There's moments
so
I
like
do.
the difference between me rolling a 1 and a 6 here is massive. But at the same time, I kind of like how, you know, when you think about real war, there's so many random elements and like
Yeah.
you have to make
Things
a
you can't
strategic
account for.
decision. You're making a strategic decision based on some probability, and you have to kind of make a bet. And I kind of like how that flavor comes through. Now, I don't like it as much when, I mean, I remember I had this game that it was just like every die roll was not going my way.
Yeah.
You know, like I try to coup something and I didn't get it enough to even like wipe out your influence.
Yeah.
And then, I sponsored the Olympic Games or something with like a big advantage. And then you got the point from it
Right.
instead. And it
Yeah.
was just like, oh my gosh, you got to
Yeah.
be kidding me here.
Yeah. I'll say another awesome thing about the aggressiveness in this game is how it varies depending upon the region. Like I think, and thematically, this just is so cool how Europe is so stable and
It's
like
so hard to
it's
flip
so
some of
hard
those.
but if you can, oh my gosh, that's
Like it could shift the tide of the war.
it could,
right?
yeah,
If
yeah, as you
flip,
can
like-
imagine. Whereas by the time we've got Africa opening up, and these all these places that have like a one
stability,
one
yeah.
stability, and they're not battlegrounds either, and so they're not dropping the DEFCON.
Yeah.
We are just cooing like crazy,
Flipping them back and
I mean, it'll
forth.
be like it's. We'll be at like 6 in Zaire and then
Yeah.
flip it back and we're just 5 the other way. And so like, it's so fun how the aggressiveness also is so different depending upon the region that you're
Yeah.
in. And each region has its own kind of feel around that interaction.
Yeah, there's really like no mechanism that feels out of place here thematically. Like it just all ties in so well. I mean, we reviewed Twilight Struggle. We have an in-depth review and we talk about how we feel like it is one of the best marriages of mechanics and themes in a game
it's
that
a
we've
masterpiece.
experienced.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I cannot deny that when I'm playing Twilight Struggle, it is a tense head-to-head experience.
Yeah.
But it really has, and I mean, it stood the test of time. I talked about some of the early ones on this list are kind of cold to the new. I've maybe only played these a few times. Twilight Struggle, I think I'm sitting around 20 some plays, and that's spread over almost 15 years now.
Yeah.
So
That's
like
crazy. Yeah.
and it still has held. I mean, it's still a game that lands in my top 10 games of all time.
Oh yeah, we're not tired of it.
consistently.
Like every game.
I haven't
is
been
so
able to play it
fresh.
much recently, and that's why we keep bringing
I
it up,
know.
that we need to get this one to the table. It turns out that your only gaming partner for a game moving, 1,000 miles away is not
Ugh.
conducive to getting this game played. But despite that, I still will give Twilight Struggle the pedestal as my number one favorite highly aggressive game of all time. Do you need a little more aggression in your lives? Do you need to do you have some pent up negative energy that you just feel need to get taken out in a healthy way, then we have a great list of games for you to check out there below. Would love to hear games that you've enjoyed that are aggressive. And we've got other videos here that are probably about less aggressive games. If maybe you watch this list and are like, these are not for me. Either way, we will see you in the next one. Have a good one.